The gospel reading today is taken from Mark chapter 8. We're in the dead center of the book of Mark, 8:31 through 38. Listen to what the Spirit might speak into your life, your situations, your circumstances in this reading from Mark. Then Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all of this quite openly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things. He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world, but to forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with his holy angels. May God bless to our understanding this reading from God's holy word, and to God's name be glory and praise. Every year at about this time, I puzzle with you over this question. Why crosses? Why all these crosses? I think there's 5 of them there. I got 5 of them right here. I got them in the windows. We got more up front than you probably see. There's that one, and I just hid one of them because there were just too many crosses. With the big wooden one, we didn't need the small brass one, I thought. What is with the cross? What's it about? It's so horrible when you think about it. It's an ugly thing. Let them deny themselves, Jesus says, and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will save it. And then he goes on to ask that most haunting of questions. What will it profit them to gain the whole world, but to forfeit their life? And life isn't a good word. We don't have a good word for the Greek here. Psyche, it's where we get the word psyche. To forfeit their psyche, their selves, their identities, their everything, their essence, their spirit, their being. And what can they give in exchange for their psyche, their psyche, their everything, their being? But that is just the thing, Jesus. If you take up a cross, you also forfeit your life, don't you? And we don't want to forfeit our lives. We want to keep them. This is one of the great paradoxes. And whenever the word paradox emerges from the shadows and shows up in a sermon, it's going to be a top-heavy sermon. This is one of the great paradoxes. It's one of the many hard truths of the cross. You can't keep your life. You're going to give it to something. You're going to invest its energies and its time and its talents and its resources into something. You can't keep your life. I can't keep mine. We're going to give it away. Everything in us is built for self-protection, for self-defense, maybe even self-broadcast. But there's no keeping these precious lives of ours. We'll put them into something. We'll give them over to something or someone. We will forfeit our lives to some cause, great or small, or many little causes, perhaps. We will dedicate our lives and our energies to some master, some symbol, some idol, some cross, because it'll take everything we can give it, just like a cross. We will cast our time and our energies and resources into some fire or another, and it will consume them. Will it be worthwhile? Will it be something that makes us better and makes the world better? Will it bring peace and well-being? Will it be the cross of Christ or the cross of the ego? So there was a video on Instagram recently by the ingenious El Cordova. She creates lots of videos, and she's always the only actress in the videos, and she plays various parts. In this particular video, she has the great discoveries of human history sitting around in a living room, arguing over which of them created modern civilization. And so this is the same person playing every single part. And now she doesn't have like a wheel outfit for the wheel. It just says above her head, wheel. One of the great inventions of modern civilization. And so a bunch of sisters are sitting around the room looking kind of bored, each one played by the same young lady. And Wheel speaks up first. You know it's Wheel because it says wheel above her head. And Wheel says, humans have come so far, and to think it's all because of me. Currency speaks up and says, hang on. Language says, is she serious right now? Fire, and it says fire over her head. Fire says, just so we're all clear, civilization wouldn't even exist without me. Light bulb says, for the last time, fire, you were harnessed, not invented. You're not even in this club. Fire objects and calls out, mother, and mother, of course, is necessity. Necessity is absent-mindedly flipping through a magazine, and she says, stop fighting, children. Steam engine. Steam engine looks up and says, look, we all have our place in human history, from the jaunty little trinkets, and here she casts a glance at compass, from the jaunty little trinkets to the catalyst of the Industrial Revolution, who facilitated the global trade of goods. Printing press speaks up to say, I'll take the spread of ideas over the spread of goods any day. But you do you. Internet responds, I mean, if we're talking about the spread of ideas, she points to herself. Semiconductor, and I'm still not quite sure what a semiconductor is. Semiconductor says in a rough, old-fashioned brogue, hey, just remember, some of you guys would have just been science fiction if not for us material guys. Computer says, that's a good point. Artificial intelligence shows up in the doorway and speaks from the edge of the room in an eerie, not quite human voice. Hello, world. Light bulb replies with a little bit of uncertainty. Hi. Artificial intelligence asks, can I have a place at your table? Semiconductor looks uncertain. Penicillin asks, will you be a net good for humanity? Artificial intelligence says, of course, and gives a blank look at the camera. I thought it was great. As different needs arise down through the course of history, we always seem to find solutions. We always seem to come up with something. We find ways to grow more food for more people. There's always some solution somewhere. We always seem to find our way. Different times call for different fixes. Some bygone advances are now outdated, but they got us to where we are. Daguerreotypes and mimeographs and phonographs and, well, steam engines. But each one led us to a more sophisticated advance. You know, as a Gen Xer, I am still amazed sometimes that my phone isn't just my phone. My phone is my camera. It's my speaking road atlas. It's my TV. It's my stereo. It's got all my music. It's my tape recorder. It's my video recorder. It's my dictionary. It's my encyclopedia. It's my calculator. And they told us you're not always going to have a calculator. They were wrong. I always have a calculator. And it's only an iPhone 8. Our human species crawl toward maturity. We crawl even toward a sense of wisdom, in a way. I mean, these are the least violent times in human history, and perhaps the most accepting in some ways. We're gaining wisdom. We're gaining knowledge. But one bit of ancient wisdom that has never really stuck is one that we've been hearing for centuries, for millennia. It is that love will cost you everything. Love will cost you everything. This is the message of the cross. And if it doesn't cost you everything, is it love? For all our growing body of knowledge and even wisdom, the lesson of self-giving love seems to elude us. Because the knowledge of the world is, you got to look out for number one. You got to make your own way. It's the paradox of the cross, the great paradox of life. It is the unlikely truth at the heart of our seeking. It's a truth so hard that even once we find it, sometimes we lose sight of it. It's this: happiness runs from those who pursue it, but it comes and makes its home with those who pursue the well-being of others, and who apply their best skills and their own best selves to things that bring about beauty and goodness in this world. That joy is not found in the house of plenty and the house of mirth, but in a life of discipline and service and self-giving love. The quest for self is the quest for status, for riches, for power, for fame, for money perhaps. It's endless, it's futile. No matter how much you get, you will want more. No amount is ever enough. It's a road full of shortcuts and loopholes and traps. And look what it has done to our world. All these people looking out for themselves. On the other hand, the quest for goodness and beauty will take everything you can give it, yes. But it reframes the question. It doesn't ask, what can I get? It asks, where can I apply myself? Where can I fit my skills and my abilities and my interests into the needs of the world? What can I give? It has no shortcuts. It is hard. It is long. It will cost everything. But it is the way to the fullness of life. This is the paradox of the cross. Like I said, you don't want the preacher to pull out the word paradox. We all know what it means, but we don't talk about it much and we don't think about it much. Let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who clutch, those who cling, those who grasp will lose what they have. And those who give and those who let go will gain more. What do you say to Jesus? Here he is at the middle of the Gospel of Mark. Here he is right at the dead center. He's at a turning point in his ministry. He is unspeakably famous and well-loved in Galilee. And now he says, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go to Jerusalem and get myself killed. What do you say to a 33-year-old who says something like that? What do you say to someone who believes it's their destiny to be murdered? You would do what Peter did. Peter always speaks for you and me in the Gospel of Mark and in the other Gospels to some degree. You would do what Peter did. You'd take him aside and say, listen, you're discouraging people. What is this? You're at the height of your game, man. Don't go talking about getting yourself killed and being rejected. This is good stuff you're doing. You're giving people hope. You're giving people dignity. You're giving people a sense of worth and belonging and love from God. They'd always heard that it was about a bunch of rules. You're talking about love and belonging. Don't give that up. I won't let you. I won't let you. You're making this harder than it has to be. Okay, so I put a few words in Peter's mouth. But like I said, that's kind of Peter's literary function. He speaks for you and me. Then Jesus unleashes on Peter his meanest, harshest criticism in all the Gospels. Get behind me, you devil. Whoa. Why would Jesus speak that way to his best friend, his closest friend? Get behind me, you devil. I think sometimes when we lash out at our friends, it's because they're telling us something that we don't want to know. And maybe Jesus doesn't want to take up this cross. Maybe he would like nothing more than to stay at the top of his game and be famous and loved. It'd be nice. We can't stay there forever. Maybe he wants so badly to do exactly as Peter says. He doesn't want to take up his cross any more than Peter wants him to. And yet sometimes in life, don't our crosses choose us? I heard it said once that any enlightened soul in Jesus' day would have been crucified. It could have been the Buddha. In that time and place, it would have gotten them crucified. I don't know why. I don't know why such unspeakable horror had to be, and I cannot believe that a good and a loving God could see no other way of redeeming humanity from its own self-destruction than to nail an innocent person to a cross. What mind could even concoct such a plan? And yet, somehow, in Jesus' cross, in his horrific death, God owns all of the world's deepest sorrows and deepest pain and most senseless horror. God somehow takes it into God's self and makes of it new life. A lotus flower would be nice as a symbol for our beliefs, for our spiritual path. Crescent moons are pretty. Those are nice. It's always fun to see one of those in the sky. A six-pointed star, that's okay. A Star of David, a gate, a wheel, a yin-yang. Those are nice. They're all good symbols for their spiritual paths. Why do we Christians get this thing? A grisly old cross. You know, we mainline Protestants have tried to soften the cross. If you ever notice the book we use for communion, it doesn't have a cross on it anymore. It has a tree of life. And that's nice. We've tried using a chalice too. But somehow the cross gets at the unique message of Christianity. I'm not saying it's better than the other religions. I'm saying this is what we add to the wisdom of the world. This is the unique truth of Christianity. It is that love will cost you. Love will hurt. But it leads on the other side to new life. Sometimes avoiding pain is not always the best and most responsible way forward. Sometimes you've got to do the hard thing, the thing that you're scared to do, the thing that is going to hurt. Now hear me. I have heard it said that women who are in abusive relationships need to bear that cross. That's not what I'm saying. I have heard it said that gay kids need to stay in the closet or try to be straight. They need to bear that cross. That's not what I'm saying. Sometimes loving yourself and accepting yourself and freeing yourself, that is your cross. Sometimes that's the cross that you are called to bear. We are all called into our most wondrous and fullest selves. But there comes a time in these lives when we must choose between taking what we can get and giving what we can give. And if we choose to take, we will always need more and more and more. And if we choose to give, then the world will receive from us far more than we ever even knew that we were giving. Far more than we expected to give. And it will be rewarded in ways that we cannot predict or imagine. And I'm not talking about going to heaven, though we all hope for that. I'm talking about joyful, purposeful, hope-filled lives, here and now. This is the way of the cross. So I hesitated to tell this story. It's slightly more saccharine than most of my stories, but this is from the book Bird by the devotional writer Anne Lamott. Anne Lamott is a Presbyterian layperson, and she very often will come out with slim little books, just her thoughts about the spiritual life. And she says this: a 3-year-old girl in the next town over was diagnosed with leukemia. She needed a massive blood transfusion. Everyone in her family was tested to see who would be the best blood donor. It was her 10-year-old brother. Their parents asked him if he was willing to do this. He said he needed some time to think. A full day later, he said yes. he would do it. Sometime later, he was hospitalized, prepped, and he lay on the gurney, hooked up to the blood donor equipment, and the blood filled a liter bag. He was very pale. The nurse bent over him and asked if he was okay. He said, "Yes. How soon until I start to die?" That's a cross. Nobody would blame you for not doing it. Nobody would say you have to do this. This is your duty in life. It's something you choose. It's not an obligation. A cross is a choice easily avoided. It costs us everything we've got. But the unexpected truth in life is that until we take up a cross of some kind, we don't really have anything. Until we shoulder a burden for the sake of another, something bigger than ourselves, something worthier. What do we have? What we keep for ourselves is lost. All that we gain, all that we hoard, all that we store away, all of that perishes. The savings, the funds, the investments, the real estate, the insurance policies, the possessions. You know what happens to those cars that we're still paying off? They get squeezed into squares and stacked in the rain where they rust. All that we would try to make our lives to be about. Can that really be what our lives are about? The achievements, the respect, the security, all of it goes away. It may feel substantial and weighty, and we may respect people that have those things. It may feel like power and life, but it's not. It's an illusion. And our silly egos believe in those things for a time. But our hearts know that what matters is really something else. There's a cross for everyone in this world. There's one for you and there's one for me. Maybe more than one. Maybe more. What you gain in this world is what you give. What you achieve in this world is the act of kindness that perhaps only you see. What you keep, what follows you forever, is not what you clutch, but what you let go, what you freely surrender. We can grow smarter as a species. We can maybe even grow wiser. We can grow more peaceful. We can grow kinder and more accepting. But this troubling truth at the heart of Christianity is very hard to accept. Safety and peace do not come from controlling, but from letting go of control. Let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who clutch will lose what they're clutching. Those who let go will gain. I stand with Peter. I would have said, no, not the cross, anything but the cross. That's because I'm always hoping there's an easier way when there's not. Don't go looking for your cross. It will probably come and find you if it hasn't already. And it will cost you. And it will be beautiful and good. Amen.